we could not be more excited for the episode that you have in store for you today. We just interviewed the most amazing person. Her name is Kiki, and she is going to tell us all about her incredible story of becoming this multifaceted diamond of a human through trauma and abuse, making meaning.
Welcome. We are so happy to have you here today. You describe yourself as someone embracing a non-binary life. You use he, she pronouns, which we will ask you about in a minute. You are a home chef. I'd like some food. I don't see any today. A hiker, a dog mom. I don't see your dog either. And a trans-masculine demisexual lesbian. You are a drag king, which, by the way, I did not know that.
About it.
And I hit my pad so hard on the table with excitement that I bent it.
Friends, the content discussed on this video might be triggering or upsetting to some of our viewers and listeners, particularly those with a history of trauma or abuse.
Please listen at your own discretion, and please take care of your mental health.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. This podcast also does not establish a standard of care, doctor-patient, or client relationship. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. And because each person is so unique, all listeners are encouraged to connect with counseling and medical professionals for assistance with their personal journey. All people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved.
Welcome to We're Not Fine. I'm Dr. Talia Jackson.
And I'm Doug Jensen. We thank you for listening every week to our deep and thought-provoking conversations about relationships.
Hi, viewers and listeners on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, the We're Not Fine podcast.
Welcome. We could not be more excited for the episode that you have in store for you today. We just interviewed the most amazing person. Her name is Kiki, and she is going to tell us all about her incredible story of becoming this multifaceted diamond of a human through trauma and abuse, making meaning. And the best part is this beautiful love story, which is a beautiful segue into this reunion of soulmates that you're about to have.
I am about to.
Not with a human per se.
That is so correct. I want to also say one more thing about the Kiki interview. So it's not only about a history of trauma, but I honestly think that the word non-binary, the pronouns that we're using in our culture today are such a mystery to so many people. Yes. About how to use them, and people are walking on eggshells and tripping over themselves trying to say the right thing. Kiki addresses all of those issues as a person who identifies as non-binary and goes by he, she pronouns.
That's right.
So please stay tuned. It's a very exciting episode with a lot of depth to it. We do have a disclaimer, as we've already put on this particular episode for you. There's some very deep stories about trauma and abuse that are really relevant to a lot of people, but also very hard to hear. So we hope that you take into consideration that as you listen.
It's incredibly powerful.
It is. But this non-binary and pronoun piece, I got to tell you, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's trying to figure it out, including for ourselves. So
that's right.
So grateful
I
to have had
asked
that.
all the questions, and Kiki answered. I was a little embarrassed to ask, but I'm so glad I did. And now you can all benefit from maybe not ever asking, but needing to know.
But yes.
Homecoming, reunion.
As everybody knows who's been watching the podcast, we did this amazing first live event at the Rogue Buddha Studio in Minneapolis with the most ridiculously talented artist, Nick Harper. And he made this amazing piece called Serenity that everyone knows about if they know me, because I've talked about it incessantly. I had gone to Art of Whirl in Minneapolis and walked by his studio and just got stopped in my tracks because this piece was right through the door. Well, I purchased the piece, and after making a few payments, because Nick is well worth all of the money, but it wasn't cheap.
He's the real deal.
It is being delivered at my house on Tuesday, and we're having a cocktail party and appetizers to celebrate the homecoming of my Serenity.
I literally cannot wait. And also being at the studio, seeing all of his pieces and this really exceptional piece piece that Doug fell in love with, and then having the artist bring it to your home, hang it. I mean, I'm just like, it really is this homecoming. And do you remember how Nick was talking about the way that he sees the work that he does is it's about finding your soulmate, and that when people see a piece of art and they fall in love, it's like you recognize a part of yourself in this soul of the work.
What is interesting about this piece, and Nick and I have stayed in contact ever since he was on our show, and before that,
you guys are buddies now.
We are buddies. He texted me and he was thankful again for how much this piece means to me. You know, it's one of those things about art, and I don't know other people who have like fallen in love with a piece, but I'm still figuring out all of what it means to me because I have a very strong emotional connection to it. So I am so excited. I'm a little afraid, not afraid in a fearful way, but I'm just kind of like, I can't imagine this piece being in my home.
I know.
And seeing it every day. It's huge.
Like it is the centerpiece of, I mean, you won't be able to see anything.
I'm hopeful it fits in my dining room where I want it.
We'll make it fit.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna push the sconces out.
Yeah, so. I think that's like crack them off the wall and move them a couple of inches. We'll do what we need to do.
I can't wait.
Oh my God, I literally cannot wait. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited that you get to be there with me. And
I've never even seen your house.
I can't believe you haven't been. But our studio is by Talia's home, so we always go to your place.
We've been pod married for a year and a half.
Yep.
You're right. You always come over after, not always, but a lot, to my place because I live so close. But yeah, I have to drive.
I'm on the other side.
40 minutes.
Like I do whenever we record FYI. So with that, I'm so excited for this week. And, you know, to be honest, we're going to banter about like the aftermath of this. The next time we have a podcast recording, I'm sure we'll talk about like
I think we should
how it was.
Take videos and post them for people that are following us and following our journey. It's kind of a big fucking deal.
It's a big fucking deal. And speaking of journey, I'm so excited for his journey that he shared with us in a very, very personal way. Please take care of yourself as you listen to this, and please enjoy. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of We're Not Fine. We have delightful Kiki with us today. We've been having a lot of fun. And as you see, two of us matched and the other didn't get the memo.
No one gave me the memo.
Yeah.
And not even, I could have done some purple earrings or something, but no, nothing. This was like on the deal.
Matches.
And Rapunzel is wearing purple as well. Rapunzel was in charge of the memo, I think, this morning.
Yes.
I did get something from an unknown number. Oh. It said unknown. It must have been Rapunzel.
Yes, it was.
Okay, that's
she came down from her tower.
That is excellent. You could have worn purple lipstick too.
Cell service.
Yes.
I'm sure that's true. There is no way for me to do this without reading your amazing bio. Oh. So I'm going to read it. I'm so excited for you to be here today.
Me too.
And we'll kind of talk about how we met you, but the minute I saw your video on another person's website, who is our producer, I got so excited. I'm like, I need that person on our podcast immediately. So I'm so glad you're here, and it did not take much effort, so thank you.
I'm pretty sure I was the one who was like, we have to have Kiki.
I think I said it first.
I mean, I love when people fight over me. So.
There's been a lot of that today already. There's been a shitload of that today. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here today. You describe yourself as someone embracing a non-binary life. You use he, she pronouns, which we will ask you about in a minute. You are a home chef. I'd like some food. I don't see any today. A hiker, a dog mom. I don't see your dog either. And a trans-masculine demisexual lesbian. You are a drag king, which, by the way, I did not know that.
About it.
And I hit my pad so hard on the table with excitement that I bent it. I cannot wait to hear more.
I feel like that's called anger management problems.
Is Blackberry your drag name?
Yes.
Okay, I cannot wait.
Can we just ask more about that right this second?
No. What I want is a video of it.
We need more.
And I have a resource called Jodi who's going to give me that.
Oh, yeah.
And I want it on here.
Yeah, my baby got
me. A speaker, motivator, encourager, spiritual, nerdy. That's amazing. I saw your Sailor Moon jacket.
I'm a part of the nerd club myself.
Survivor of many things from what I understand, and neurodivergent as hell. As hell, it says. I was going to write as well, but it says as hell.
Yes.
You also describe yourself as an open book and make it a priority to share what you can to help people heal and realize they are not alone. That is such an important message.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any of my favorite line and our favorite line of your bio is, "Get ready for a ride inside of Kiki's mind. It is complex but functional."
Yes.
I cannot wait.
Yes, I mean, you are an enigma. And of course, Supak, our incredible producer, and her beautiful wife, they have this amazing clothing line for non-binary, I think it's dress shirts, right?
Yes.
The button-down shirts. And they asked you, I don't even know the story, they asked you to be a model for them. They did this beautiful video that had both Doug and I in tears. It was so vulnerable and so honest, and we just felt like everyone needed to meet you and hear your story. But how did you even end up meeting Supak and Jamie and being with Jay Victoria?
Well, me and my partner went to Pride this year in Minneapolis, and we were just walking around, and I had first seen Jay Victoria on Instagram. I had messaged them because I really liked their attire to see what my size was.
Understandably.
Yes,
Yeah.
but when we saw them at Pride, I was like, oh, babe, let's stop. And I'm literally taking the shirts off the hangers and trying them on right there. I actually have some pictures from that day that I posted on my Instagram. But I was like, oh my God, your shirts are amazing. They're like, hey, we have a contest. If you want to enter, you can get a massage, a photography shoot, this, that, and the fourth. I was like, okay, I didn't think I'd win. Because I'm like, it's Pride. There's thousands of people here. Yeah. But they drew my name. And yeah, so it was funny. So we went from talking on Instagram to texting, connected with Sue, who was amazing. And then, yeah, we did a photography shoot. That was life-changing for me.
How?
I've never felt seen in my life. I've never felt important or that I mattered. And Amy, the photographer, made me glow, like literally glow. And it wasn't product or anything. She saw me, and because of that, I shined. In the pictures, like, I wish I could have gotten all of them, but the ones I got back, I felt like, if this is Kiki, this isn't what someone wants me to dress like or be like or act like. This is me 1,000%. So I will always cherish it. I actually cried at the end. I did.
We
Kiki,
did too.
Yeah, it was heartwarming in so many different ways, and I think your body positivity and your confidence really was just shining in that video, and people, of course, might be able to get that if we have it in our show notes.
Yeah, so let's do that.
It would be so great if people could see it. It was really amazing. You just looked like you were walking the walk and talking the talk. That's what I think.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And I found that very courageous, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, really, how many people are comfortable doing that, and you found a way to get there, which we'll talk about. I want to talk about something that is so in our culture. As a member of the LGBTQ community myself, the word non-binary has obviously evolved. I have a 22-year-old identifies as non-binary as well. And so that term is so confusing to so many people. And so I kind of want to start with some basics here. Mm-hmm. Like, I would love to have you share with our viewers and listeners, like, what your definition of non-binary is. And I'd love to hear more about your personal experience of, like, understanding that part of your identity, accepting that part of your identity. I think those are two separate issues in some ways.
Yeah.
So I'd just love to hear your journey.
Absolutely. So non-binary to me means I identify to nothing, male, female, I'm other. I actually got an X on my driver's license. Okay. Yeah, excuse my permit, I love a driver's license. But I got an X on it because it could be any other day I could choose to dress a certain way, or I could choose to act a certain way. Sometimes I want to be like the male, like I'm escorting my lady, opening doors, the whole swagger dagger. And then there's other times I want to put on a pretty dress and be demure and like, honey, open the door for me.
I love it.
And put on a little makeup. I fell in love with makeup again. That was awesome. And so at first, I didn't know how to do that, because what I did was, when I chose non-binary initially, it was because I really loved being masked. I love the colognes, I love the clothes, I love the dress shoes, I love the short haircut. I went like head in, even as far as getting literally. I actually had locks down here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I cut them off. It felt so liberating because I had the locks because it was my mother's from Georgia, and she was like, you don't cut your crown, but I cut my crown proudly.
Wow.
So this is still my crown. But
Georgia the state or Georgia the country?
Georgia the state.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
I didn't know it was a country.
I was like, what an interesting question.
I was curious. Yeah.
So I initially went very masked, actually to a point, which is why I'm glad you asked me this. it got toxic for me. I lost any part of me that was soft. Non-binary is not he or she, it's other. And I went way too far mask. I got emotionless at a point. It was all about me. And even my sex life, I hope I could say that.
We talk about literally everything.
Okay.
There's nothing you can't say.
Actually, I think that's a really relevant part of this conversation.
Oh, thank you. Okay. But my sex life it was just all about me, like power. Like I wanted to be like even in bed, I wanted to be like the man, like, give me what I want. Dominant, yeah. Alpha, yeah. And I realized I started to not like myself. But because I had not been accepted as the woman I was born to be, once I cut the hair and changed the clothes, women wanted me. Like, I was desired. And so that's why I went so far left. Like, once you get a taste of something you haven't had, sometimes it takes you far from who you are.
Yes.
So, all that to say, so it's been a journey. And meeting Jodi changed my life. And we'll get to that part, but because I had been on my own for so long, also part of that alpha mask was my warrior in me, my protect myself, my walls. Yeah. And so when I met her, she softened me and she loved me in a way I hadn't been loved. And so I felt like I could be softer. And I started to crave things like, I would see her put eyeshadow. I'm like, I want a little eyeshadow. She took me with her to tour, and I was like, I want to try on that dress. I literally got rid of all my dresses and shoes, y'all. Like, it was like mass. But I was like, I want to try on the dress. And I tried that dress on, and she was like, oh my God, you look so... I was terrified. Because I'm like, she knows me as daddy, like, I'm a G, like, I don't
what is she going to think when you do this? Right?
I was terrified. And she's like, baby, you look beautiful. She's like, buy that dress. Next thing I know, we're at Sephora. I'm getting makeup. And it was, as being neurodivergent, I don't care for change, so it was also anxiety inducing for me, but exciting at the same time because they were so accepting. They're like, I love you as you are, let's do this full throttle. And so when I saw myself in that makeup, I was like, wow, I'm beautiful. I'd never felt beautiful. Never. I would have never. I'm like, if anyone wanted to call me, I was he, him initially. I'm like, handsome, don't call me beautiful, because it would trigger that void in me where I never felt loved as the woman. So when they were like, God, you're hot, and we went out and we took a ton of pictures, and they're on my Instagram too, and she looked beautiful, and we had a great night. And so my drag name used to be King Kiki because it was mask, but I went with Blackberry because the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. So,
oh my God, I love it.
Duh.
And there's no male or female to that. It's just Blackberry.
Yeah.
What I love, first of all, I love 20 things about what you just said, right? And we're going to dive so deep into that love story because it sounds like it just changed everything about how you experience yourself and safety and love. But I want to talk about this non-binary, just the concept that it almost like, what it sounds like is that you went from identifying as female to male in this like pendulum swung all the way to the other side.
Absolutely.
It was like yin to yang, and then you were sitting in that space, but what you realized is there were some really beautiful parts of you that maybe, and we're going to, it makes such perfect sense with your life story and the trauma, how you would want to maybe reject the softer, more vulnerable parts of yourself. And it makes me so happy to hear that you have figured out a way to just embrace yourself as this multifaceted diamond of like, you are everything. And it's like, even non-binary, it's just like a rejection of the binary and I'm other and the X. And so this is my question. And at first I was embarrassed to ask, right? But then when I asked you in our meet and greet, you were so kind and wonderful. And I was like, can I ask this on the, on our episode 2? Because I am familiar with they, them.
Yes.
He, they, she, they. Tell us about identifying as he, she, and how, I feel like you've already told the story of how this came to be, and I love everything about it. And how does one address someone who is he and she, respectfully?
It's so fun, actually. Like, I'll go out and they're like, hello, sir. I'm like, hey. And then someone'll be like, okay, girl. I'm like, hey. Like, you know, it's like, okay.
Like I did when we met.
Yes.
Yep. All right.
Because I realized, you know, I lived a life before I chose to be non-binary of much femaleness, of much girlness. I'm black. We're soulful. We're like, hey, girl, Kiki, boo-boo. How you doing? You know. And so I didn't want to lose that. But this identity, this mask identity became such a god to me because I finally was visible.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how hungry I was to feel like I mattered to someone, to something, to some cause. In this case, it was masculine. People are saying you're sexy, you're handsome. I've got women in my DMs. I'm like, I've never, and I'm 30, I was 38 years old when I finally started this journey. Wow. So I'm like, oh my God.
But how do you make sense of that?
Yeah, so, well, it's...
I mean, you're literally the same person.
Yes.
What shifted?
And I'm hearing, by the way, that shift over, and I just want to go back to what you said about like that discomfort with that alpha dominant male. It almost feels like toxic masculinity kind of was in your experience, and you didn't like it. Like when you said you didn't like that part, I was really struck by that.
Yeah, it was gross. It was, God, that would... So, I did not have an identity until I was 38. Because how I was raised was really to please everybody. I was a puppet. So I never thought for myself, made decisions for myself. I always asked other people. So if you imagine if you take that, all of a sudden that realizes it's queer, and that realizes, hey, I'm really comfortable in these mask clothes, being neurodivergent, let's stack this here. You're going to run to what's comfortable. So I ran to that mask side. And I just felt alive. I felt powerful, important, confident. Like I had never believed in my own voice or anything. It was like I was roaring. I was like, yes, I'm here. You know
what? I think you needed that.
Yeah, I did. It had its time. I totally agree. But and then being a late bloomer, I had never dated really. So then I started dating in this maskness, and that's when I started to dislike it because I saw the women I dated didn't want my soft. The first two women I dated, they were like, "We want you masked all the time. We don't want." Because sometimes I would feel myself wanting to go that soft direction, but it would be met with, "You can't be in the street and be masked and then come home and do this." Like,
which is also pigeonholing you into an identity that you're not choosing for yourself.
Yeah, and I would say just simply not the right fit in a partner.
Agreed.
Yeah, which is why I became. So then it went from being masked to toxic because now I'm feeling rejected in my queer identity and attempting to be non-binary, right? Non-binary is not just males, male, females. It's all the colors. I wasn't allowed to embrace the other side with the other two. And so it became toxic. I got bitter and angry.
Sure.
And yeah, it took me meeting Jodi. I have never met someone so patient and loving. She listens to me and she's like, this is what's happening, A, B, C, and D. And she's like, this is how I need to love you. And this is what you want from me right now. And it brought a peace to the war inside of me of who am I.
It's amazing.
So now my closet, instead of it being just, I wore suits, button-ups, dress pants, dress shoes. Now I've got purples and pinks and Care Bears and Sailor Moon and
Rapunzel.
Yeah, Rapunzel. Yes, my princess. I was even, and what I didn't realize though is Jodi helped me embrace my little Kiki. So to be honest, the female side of me is little Kiki. And little Kiki wants to wear dresses and play with princesses and quote Disney movies and put on eyeshadow and makeup. And my girlfriend still loves me that way. Sometimes I just want to put on a dress and twirl.
Which you should.
Yeah.
I am really curious about the little Kiki.
Yeah.
And that we've got more questions about little Kiki that I'm not even looking, I don't even know what we wrote down. I'm just like, I can't stop. Like, I can't get enough of this.
There's a lot of questions,
But, and I don't know if you've thought about this, or I don't know if you have an answer to this or not, but it sounds like the female little Kiki never manifested as an adult woman Kiki.
No.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I was, as a child, I was taught to be seen and not heard. And though my mom would put barrettes and braids in my hair, I knew I was meant to be soft. If I tried to speak, it was met with violence. So she liked to play with, God, what's that thing? The bear.
Care Bear?
Not Care Bear. The bear Paddington.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to play with Paddington. I wanted to play with my stickers and my cards, but we were locked down. Like, if my dad was in the room, we could play with it. If he wasn't, we couldn't. And so she found herself in like in Sailor Moon and Fox Kids, but then she got stunted by all the physical abuse. So she got trapped at 8. So as I've gotten my own money and came into my own life, I've started to love on her. So she's grown a bit. I would say she's a teenager now.
Wow.
But she's still very anxious and very scared and protective of me. But she helps me open up and be vulnerable and not keep up walls and cry and say, this really hurts me. And so I hated her at first because I had never felt strong. I always felt weak-minded, and I had low self-esteem and self-hatred. And with this mask, Kiki, I was like, oh my God, I'm alive. I'm powerful. I can do anything. I'm confident. But when she would come out, I would get angry. Now I love her, and I give her time. And my partner gives her time. Like, I love my partner walk up to me. She'll be like, hi, little Kiki. And I'll just blush like,
I am curious if you could talk a little bit more, because one of the things that I think, Kiki, in general about abuse, I always tell new clinicians who are getting feedback or mentoring from me, like the age at which people start to get abused is when they stop growing and they stop developing, and you really talk about it that way.
Yeah.
Like, and you also hated that part of you that was in that very shameful, hurt place as an abused person. And you referenced in this video that we saw about your history of abuse, I might say there was some neglect when you talk about like having to take the scraps of food that your father wasn't going to eat for multiple children in your family. So there was so much deprivation is what it felt like to me. And I realize this is a very tricky part of the conversation, and so I'm just incredibly grateful for your courageousness to share what you have with us and anything more.
Or not.
Absolutely.
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
this is why Kiki has visitors.
That is fantastic. I have some of those in my office.
Yes.
What I would say about this, I'm somewhat curious about that specific transition to embracing Kiki, because one of the things I oftentimes tell people to do with their younger version of themselves is to consider that and hold that person and imagine embracing that person when you get scared.
Yes.
Because that part of us that is scared and has difficulty being ourselves courageously in this world is oftentimes that fearful little child that does not feel safe growing up, that does not feel safe developing. And I have people embrace themselves as a child. I do that with my little Doug sometimes. I'll be honest, I have a history of some abuse as well. So, and it's an interesting process to actually just embrace that person that is not a pretty part of our history.
Yeah.
How did you get to that place? How did you grow to start loving Kiki instead of disliking and wanting to maybe shove away Kiki?
It took till 2020.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
This process is new for you.
Yes. It's, whew.
Oh my gosh.
I'm hearing 2020. I'm like, oh,
I know,
okay,
but
I
it's
got
also
you.
like the entire world shut down, but Kiki blossomed.
Well, not initially.
Well,
So-
I'm hearing she's still blossoming.
She's blossoming now, but
Yeah.
initially, because the reason I hated her so much that I was a really big extrovert. So obviously the world shuts down and I'm stuck in the house. I cried every day.
Yes.
I almost took my life so many times. I'm
so sorry to
because
hear
I
that.
hated myself. I didn't like me. I didn't want to be alone with me. This is not. Kiki is not cool. Well, at the time I was Lakeisha. I want to make sure I address that. Lakeisha was not cool. Lakeisha is a failure. Lakeisha needs to die. No one wants Lakeisha. I heard from my mother once during the initial onset of it. After that, I never heard from her. I felt worthless. And so being alone with me was scary. And my chosen moms finally convinced me. They're like, you need to get a therapist.
Oh, your chosen mom.
Yes, I have to, yes. That was names are Lisa and Debbie.
Well, how did you meet
Thank you,
these
Lisa and
moms?
Debbie.
Love you, Lisa and Debbie.
I met Lisa in 2015 at a small job I was working at, and she changed my life. She helped me come out. She helped me accept that part of myself. And so they always keep an eye on me to this day. They still keep an eye on me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So they said, you need to get a therapist. I've never had a therapist because in Black culture, we don't talk about our problems. We keep everything inside. But my inside was a danger zone of constant suicidalness, and I hated it. Yeah. But I just thought that was my life. It was darkness, and that was it. So I got a therapist in our first meeting. Like our first meeting, guys. I'm telling her, she's like, just talk to me and tell me what's going on. And I told her, she's like, Kiki, are you gay? And I remember just sitting there crying. And I was like, oh my God, I think I am. At this point, I had been alone for 20 years. Because I was involved in the church, I hadn't had sex, I hadn't had a partner, I hadn't had a relationship. I was just existing.
Did you think that you were asexual, or how were you thinking about it?
Oh, no, I was fighting masturbation hard. Like, I would have to go up for...
But fighting it because in your religion, it was a sin?
Yeah, so when I found... I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm sorry.
I'm like laughing and crying at the same time. My brain's about to explode.
I love whatever's going on in your head. And
before I found Jesus, okay, let's keep it real. Okay, Kiki was in the club. Like I was I was having sex. So all of a sudden, the church I'm in, they're like, freeze. You have to wait for your husband. So that all stopped around 22, 23, and then now I'm 38.
Got it.
Still waiting for my husband. Ew, yeah. So
I think it's time Jodi. That you move on.
Yeah. Yes, Jodi. Yes. So once I got therapy, I couldn't believe it. Like, she helped me, and I still have her to this day. But she helped me understand why I would tell her what I was feeling. I thought I was crazy. I thought I had multiple personalities. I thought my pastor told me all the time that I was psychotic. When you repeat the same thing over and over again,
repetition, compulsion.
Yeah, this I was psychotic. When you try to do the same thing and expect a different result.
Oh yes.
That's not psychosis.
That's not psychosis. It's called not having maybe a lot of awareness about falling for the same people, or continuing to be hopeful and optimistic that you're going to be able to trust people again, or whatever it is. There's nothing shameful about that.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, of course. Well, we feel crazy when we're not, and I'm older than you are, and so when I grew up, like, I couldn't figure out why I was attracted to men. And not that I'm not attracted to women, but I was predominantly attracted to men. And so it was just like this thing, like, that can't be. This isn't how the world works. And so you start to feel kind of fucking crazy. And then people start to tell you, you're fucking crazy. And the church is not necessarily, not all churches. Let me just do a disclaimer about that. Yeah. I love that we're matching on this.
Yes, I'm in a great church now.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I'd like to be a part of the program.
You are?
Oh, look at you.
I forgot.
Did it.
I forgot.
Did you do that under the desk when you were talking?
Yes.
I was doing their nails while I was talking. But it's hard. It's hard when you're told you need to be something. So even the question, even though it may not be exactly what it is that you're experiencing, but the question of, like, are you gay? Yeah. I remember in college, the first person, Catherine, who asked me, do you think you might be gay? And I remembered being like, and I was engaged to a woman at that time. And it was like, no. What? Yep. Nope.
We're not talking about that.
And when you say it out loud, right? It's like this most incredible, powerful thing. So I'm so grateful for your therapist having the balls to kind of just. I shouldn't make that a masculine thing.
No. She's amazing. She has balls.
Right.
She's got balls.
We'll call it balls.
Yeah.
But just the chutzpah to ask the question and start investigating openly and honestly, and it obviously meant a lot for you to be heard.
Yeah,
and start exploring.
Yeah, she apologized to me on behalf of the church for how they treated me, because I was trying to hide that. I didn't know if I was bisexual or gay at the time, and so I was trying to hide that part of me that was attracted to women. But every time I tried to talk about it, it was horribly met. So she apologized. She apologized on behalf of my mom for not loving me as me, because I was never loved as me. I was never good enough. So she helped me. She said, you're good enough just as you are. She said, I'm going to help you work with... That's why I named her Little Kiki, because I realized that was my CPSD and my trauma, that protector. She was looking out for me. Yeah. She's like, you don't need that anymore. She's like, I'm going to help you be who you are.
And integrate.
Yeah, integrate.
Oh my gosh, it just makes me want to cry.
So, so thanks to her, and I also went through a partial hospitalization program. I love Little Kiki. Aww. I love her for protecting me, for guarding me, for getting me this far. For all the times I would stop in front of a car and wish it would hit me, she would move me. She's always been there for me. And so
helping you survive.
Yeah. So she's now I get to have fun, like, she's my nerdy side. Our house is a beautiful magical land. We have a sensory area, nerdy areas, and I have Mirabelle and Frozen in my bedroom. So
I got to see it on our Zoom. Oh, it was so wonderful.
So the gift was meeting Jodi. The gift was having her love me as I am
Yeah.
and want to be with me, the child, the adult, the in between, all of it. And
What
the
an
way she
exceptional
looks at me, like the world just stops.
Oh
and
my
I
God.
hope I spend the rest of my life dancing with her.
You will.
Yeah,
What a lovely, lovely commitment
yeah,
and acceptance.
yeah.
And I think about your experience. It sounds like when you were a child, you were seen but rejected and punished and abused. And then you became sort of no identity. No one could really see you.
No.
And this is the first experience you've ever had with being seen
Yeah.
and being loved and having this sense of belonging.
Yeah, it's been the fact that she's still here. Our relationship started out with me in the hospital getting a hysterectomy, literally. I mean, like a month after meeting, she's sleeping on the couch at this horrible couch at the hospital with me because I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And there's been multiple hospital visits, and because she's made me feel so safe, there's been trauma that's come forth. And there's been nights where it's been really hard for her, and I've exhausted her. But she's like, I love you, I'm here, I'm not letting you go. And now we're over that hump, and we're communicating better. And I'm like, that's forever, right there, Kiki.
It's amazing.
In sickness
It's a
and
gift
health.
forever,
Yes.
no matter what, right?
Yeah,
I want to jump a little bit around in our questions now that you referenced your trauma and kind of the manifestations of that. You've talked in a video about nightmares. You've talked about going unconscious at times as a result of that. I am very curious if you feel like you get close to those experiences again. We don't always have control over our dreams, of course.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you're nearing that space or whatnot, how do you cope? Because, you know, Kiki, so many of our viewers, listeners, and our clients that we work with have trauma.
Yeah.
Really substantial trauma. And as you talk about yours kind of coming up in a safe zone, I've worked with clients that cannot access that yet.
Yeah.
Like it's a really huge unfolding that comes in time. And we work on really very methodical kind of exploration of that in a safe manner as much as possible, which is hard to do in 55 minutes. I mean, seriously, that's why this partial hospitalization or,
Yes.
you know, these experiences can be so much more gratifying in terms of like getting to some of the root of things.
Yes.
But I'm very curious, like, how do you cope? How would you say to or encourage people to cope with those traumatic events?
Oh my gosh. So the root of because you always have to get to the root of it. If you don't get to the root of it, you're not going to be able to cope with it.
Yeah.
And the root of it was I was still trying to protect myself. I wasn't leaning on my partner. I wasn't leaning on my support system. I loved them, but I was keeping everything inside. Like all this stuff was bubbling up. And I was like, if they see it, they won't want me anymore. So being vulnerable. If someone sees the ugliest side of you and does not stay around, they don't deserve you.
That's right.
And so
Of course.
my partner looked at me, she's like, you're safe, it's okay. She's like, you don't have to be strong anymore. And I finally believed her. You have to believe. You can't like let someone tell you that and then say okay, but then back here, but no, I'm still not gonna say that. I'm still gonna because I struggle with perfectionism.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing some of you do. So
For
I'm like,
sure.
Why
I need
would
to
you
look.
think that?
right. Like,
I'm like, I need to look perfect. The house needs to look perfect.
Excuse me.
She
while I
needs to
clean
think
up
I'm
here.
amazing.
I button myself up.
Yeah, I wanted someone to want me so bad that I was willing to hide my inner trauma, my inner pain. But eventually it comes out. I'm gonna tell it to you too. If you decide
Yeah,
to,
it leaks out.
yeah, come friends with someone or a romantic relationship, it's gonna come out, and it's scary as fuck, which is why I disassociated. But
It is scary as fuck, and you know we often talks about fight, flight, or freeze as the
Yes.
3 ways that people like respond to a traumatic trigger of some kind.
Yes.
And some people hate the word trigger. I don't know a better name for it.
no, I love the word trigger. 'cause
Right,
it's
like
true.
what else do we got?
That's
Right.
what it
Right?
feels like.
Yeah.
But that fight, flight, or freeze responses to trauma, like they're so, like you said, it's going to come out some way.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yes.
All the things have to come out, and that's why accessing some help. I'm just so proud of you for doing that.
Yes.
And you stuck with it.
Yeah, so I would say to deal with your trauma, I pull out one of these with my fidget. I also learned about adult coloring books.
Oh
Yes, they're
yeah.
so calming. So I
For
literally
sure.
will sit there like when I feel myself a little triggered, I'll color just to calm myself down, and figure out what's going on so I can talk to my partner in a calm manner if it's something with me. Because she always is like, if you need to talk to me, I'm here. And I also use the thing, it's called the emotional wheel. And so it talks about the event, what caused the event, what I'm feeling, what's the result, and how do I handle it.
That is work.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes, I've been doing that a lot. And then I have coping cards I made. So what can I do when I'm feeling triggered? So whether that's hold her close, watch a Disney movie, take a long shower, find some things that you love to do and put them on cards. I literally carry them with me. They're on a ring. They got laminated for me. And they're getting in my head to a point where I'm like, okay, this is what I need to do right now.
It's incredible because oftentimes what happens when we're triggered and all of our trauma just comes bubbling to the surface, we don't have access to the things that might help us calm down, like the distraction or the escape or the calming or the grounding or the mindfulness or, bringing all of your sensory experience into it. And so having it laminated, I mean, it's just brilliant. Having them on note cards.
Yeah. And I love your word sensory. I was going to focus on that a little bit. When I have people who need to get, and for our listeners and viewers, the reason why Rapunzel or the hand held device is helpful. It gets us out of our head, but it also provides us sensory and the stimulation to kind of keep us in the moment.
Yes.
So there's so many benefits to it. I love when you grab it. I notice when you grab it very purposefully at certain times of this conversation.
Yes.
So it's really a very comforting thing to be able to have that access to something. So you're teaching people so much about trauma, in addition to the non-binary and pronouns, all of which feels so critically important. That's why we could not wait to have you on the show. I'm like, we're covering so much.
Oh, but
right?
Did we ever answer the question of if you identify as he and she, how can somebody address you respectfully?
Oh,
do
no, we didn't. Oh my God. I'll just alter. I love it. I'm like, whatever, she, he. And then first I was struggling doing it first because I'm like, does that affect my identity? But no, it doesn't. It's who I am. So
right. So if it feels right, right?
That's
what it is. It's like when you felt, during the fashion shoot that this is as Kiki as this is me. You just know when your insides and outsides match, and you're just like, this is me. This feels right.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because one of my questions for people who identify as he, she, or they, is it based on circumstances, what you feel like wearing? You talked about your wardrobe.
Yes.
I just love it.
Thank you.
Right? And your hair, which is such a great haircut.
Right, because you guys are twinning.
We are. I did ask Talia to shave her head in solidarity.
Do you see? I want this acknowledged because he says he doesn't hold his hand up picking my nose.
Look at the beautiful video. Oh, you could see her face.
Yeah, but look at it in real life. Look at how close my nose is to your hand.
Kiki, what are we going to do?
I don't know.
I needed a witness.
I'm a witness now. Sorry.
I don't even know to what. But I love how fluidly you talk about it and that anything can be the case and that you're okay with anything, which I think really helps people because I think people step over themselves like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? And I'm like, well, ask.
Yeah.
My non-binary child always says, just ask.
Yeah.
Gets annoyed when I ask, what do I do in this situation? What if it's he, they? You said you understood that, but it's interchangeable, right?
Yeah.
And so I think when people identify with those pronouns, which I think that people professionally are putting those on their emails, etc., and it's very helpful.
I love that.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And let's accept people for who the fuck they are.
Exactly. Point blank.
I'm with you. All right.
I've got a question about
my hand?
About why Doug's hand is in my face. No, I'm just kidding. No, my question, it's about trust.
Yeah.
And how, and I don't know if you feel comfortable or not talking about some of the pieces that you've been through.
No, I'm ready.
We would love to hear your story, Kiki.
How far back?
Far back.
Okay. So I was born in Columbus, Ohio. I didn't know it, but we were on food stamps in Section 8. I didn't know that. But my dad, he did something on the side, drug related. So our house was really nice. Our apartment was really nice, excuse me. However, he dropped out of school in the 6th grade, and my mom dropped out of school in high school. So they weren't equipped to have children. I was rejected from birth. My dad did not want me, but my mom brought me home. All the baby pictures of me were burnt except for one. I have one picture of me that my mom has it. I don't have it. My dad was very physically abusive. So switches, cords, cables, we belts. He would wrap them in duct tape, and just beat us mercilessly. Even if we were telling the truth, he didn't believe us. Just a very violent, angry man. He would wake us up in the middle of the night to make him food. And then if my mom made something like steak or potatoes, he would get the main portion, and we'd all split up whatever was left. He ate really well. We ate really poorly. My mom finally got away from him when I was 13, but the damage was already done. I had been molested by two of my uncles by that time and walked in on my mother, thank you, having sex with my dad's best friend. So I saw way too much at my age. So we moved here when I was 13 and got away from my dad finally. But unfortunately, the mother who was loving and caring and doting back then, like she would put Vaseline in our wounds and do our hair and sneak and watch TV with us. We weren't allowed to touch TV toys, nothing. My dad was very strict. We had to stay outside till the lights came on. It was basically seen, not heard. But when we moved here, she realized she never got to live out her teenage dreams. So she started dating this guy who was a drug addict. And unfortunately, he groomed me. He saw how abusive my mom was to me verbally. At the time, it was just verbal. He said, "I wish I could take you away from here." And the little Kiki in me was like, "Oh my God, he wants to be my dad." Yeah,
someone's gonna save me from this.
At the time, I didn't know he was grooming me. My big sister at the time went home. She was old enough to go back to Ohio because he had tried to groom her too. But she didn't tell me that she just left. My mom just said she's gone. But my mom knew. So this man groomed me, and then he started molesting me. I didn't understand what was happening because it felt like love, and I'm a child. I don't understand like what this man's doing, but I started to feel really depressed and sad and angry on the inside. So I went to school and I told my teacher, I don't know why I knew this at the time, but I knew my life was to please my mom. I knew that I could not upset her. I knew I could not tell her this information. I think I was already picking up on I'm taking care of her mentally. So I told the school, they called my mom, and I couldn't tell her. I remember she put a towel over my face. I finally told her what happened, and I felt this relief wash over me as this man's been molesting me. Yeah. Do you know, they had a big argument, and instead of her sending him away, she sent me back to my abusive father.
Oh, Kiki.
That is the ultimate rejection.
It was the...
And betrayal.
Yeah.
And the sick part is, they dropped me off at the bus station. I had two big black plastic bags, and her, and this man dropped me off. So thankfully my dad had a stroke. My dad never hugged me, touched me, said he loved me, none of that. I ended up having to come back here after that. There was a fire. He hugged me. Because he had never hugged me before, I was freaked the fuck out.
Well, of course, because his touch had always been violent.
Yeah, his touch had always been violent. So I was trying to get away, but he wouldn't let me go, and I started panicking. And then that was the last time I saw him alive. He passed away. But when I got home, my mom told me, she's like, "We didn't want you back. We just took you back because the apartment caught on fire, but we didn't want you to come back here." And he was still there. So because I knew now what he did was wrong, I just ignored him. But on my way back here, another man groomed me. He was a truck driver. He also tried to father me. And then he ended up... I was 15 at the time, and he ended up grooming me as well. He would stop by my place where I live with my mom. I'm like, "Do you see how old this man is now?" I'm like, "You see how old this man? Why would you let him stop by?" And it turned out he was paying her $350 a month to keep me.
Oh my God, stop.
Yeah, so that's why he was staying around. And then at 16, he had sex with me, but because my mother's boyfriend had broke my hymen, I didn't know it. He thought I wasn't a virgin anymore, and so he started treating me like shit, and then he left me. I went to my mom, and I was heartbroken. She was like, "You'll get over it." Like, she just had, it was like no emotion. It was like whatever she wanted. The point is, she lost her source of income. So then we became her source of income, me and my siblings. So Christmas, birthdays, Mother's Day, we would have to all come together and figure out how we were going to get her the most extravagant whatever, because the drug guys weren't always around.
Wow.
So I found, I'm just condensing this a bit. At 18, at 17, I was dating this guy who didn't think I was pretty enough because I didn't wear makeup or anything. But we ended up stopping at a building that turned out to be a youth church. And the short version, I ended up giving my life to God at 17. And I dropped out of school, and I left my mom's house. She said, if you leave, you can never come back. And these people promised, I met these church people, they're like, oh, we'll take you in, we got you. So I felt brave enough to leave because they're like, we'll take you in.
At that age is phenomenal.
Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah, why I just can't even believe all of the betrayal and the abuse and the promises broken.
Yeah, like that first night on the street, I stayed at Harbor Lights.
Okay.
I had never seen something. I'm not from here. I just knew I slept on the floor. Thankfully, I was working at Target, so they I would bathe there and work. And I was homeless for a week. Someone from our church finally did take me in.
Wow.
They were a narcissist, unfortunately, and my church life was dark. It's funny when people see someone. Despite all this, guys, I was still hopeful for love and acceptance. And people would say, they said Jesus will love me, accept me, and they'll love me, except they won't turn me away. Right. But if I didn't give enough money, they would turn me away. Oh. Or still looking for that father figure. I got close to one of the pastors, and the wife accused me of trying to sleep with him. She later apologized many years later, but the damage was already done.
Yes, that's the theme. Is like the damage is already done, and I'm hearing so much physical abuse, but you're the only one who can answer this. But the emotional abuse and the trauma to just the betrayals of trust in the people that were supposed to love you and care for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
And the other thing you reference, Kiki, is what you were searching for in these people. Like when we don't have loving, unconditionally supportive parents and caregivers, we're always searching for that.
Always and forever. It never goes away.
So it's kind of why it is that I think a lot of people find the same people that are abusive or neglectful or maladaptive parents. Yeah. We just keep repeating that until we realize that makes us anxious. We're not looking in the right places. Obviously, Jodi is the right place.
Yes.
But, I love, and I don't want to pass by that too quickly, that you said you were looking for this father figure.
Yeah.
I think you were looking for a loving fucking caregiver.
Yes.
Someone who was unconditionally, and as you've chosen some people to be your parents now and mothers. But your search is really important to identify, like, why? Because if anybody listening is wondering, like, why would you keep picking these people who are, like, hurting you? Because that's all you knew. Yeah. It was familiar to you.
Someone told me at one time, they said, Kiki, it's almost like you have rejection written across your forehead. It's like a lit up sign.
Sure. Why wouldn't
like
you?
Beacon.
Yeah. So that really broke me down. The last pastor I tried before I was out of the church for a few years, I kept going in and out because I realized I was different. Yeah. And the church was very high schoolish, like if you didn't do what they wanted, they wouldn't hang out with you. And
cliquish.
Yeah, cliquish.
Exclusive.
And so I went back because my family didn't want me, and I'm trying to fight these suicidal thoughts. I'm trying to fight at this point, I'm starting to really want a woman. And it was the night I was supposed to come to church, and he called me, the pastor that I love, that I saw as my dad. His hugs were everything to me. He said, Kiki, don't come to church tonight. I said, why? He said, I can't have you coming in here in and out like everything's fine, pretend like God's blessing you when you're a sinner. He's like, I refuse to have you cause shame on my church. He was like, don't come back. No. And he hung up the phone. I almost took my life that night. I remember just shaking like this and just, it was like, that's why it was hard for me to trust people, because it was like, no matter how hard I tried, I failed. Yeah. No matter how hard I tried, I failed. So that was hard. And then I was pissed because my mom was still going there. I'm like, Mom, he just got rid of me. We're still trying to have some form of relationship at this point. So that happened. So I was out of church for 2 years. Okay. And then I met Lisa and Debbie, and my life changed. And I was on my own, living by myself finally. I did live with my sister for a decade, but that was horrible too, verbally abusive. She stopped paying rent. She stopped working. I came home one day because I had finally decided to move out. She was gone. She had took our dog. She had took everything we bought together. Just lots of abuse. The last time I attempted to connect with my mom was in 2019, December. We had a family meeting, and I ordered everybody dinner, and my mom proceeded to tell my sister every bad thing I had said about her at the table in front of her, and I told her not to. And I almost took my life that night. And my friend told me, they said, you can't keep going with something that doesn't want you. So
Very wise.
Yeah, so I stopped going back.
Yeah.
So, coming out, let's get to that fun part. Getting a therapist was amazing.
Yeah.
The hard part was being on my own. I had nobody. And at that point, George Floyd had been shot.
Ooh,
and
goodness.
so,
Okay.
yeah, no one would talk to me. My therapist hooked me up with a wonderful friend who changed my life. Her name is Megs, who's now happily married to a wonderful woman. She got me involved into a community for online, and then we finally met in person after COVID calmed down. Yeah, but I was doing the same thing in my dating, so I'm attracting all these married women.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
I was like, what the
So
hell?
available
Yeah.
and all that. Okay.
Yeah, I was
All
like,
right. Yep.
but they're like, oh, I'm leaving my partner, And so I believed them. And so 3 of them fucked me over so hard. Or they had previous trauma. The first one left me, my first official girlfriend. I had never had love. I had never, like, when I had tried to be with a guy, I would cry after. Anytime I had sex with a guy, I would cry after. It wasn't for me. But when I would sleep with this woman, my first love, it was like everything made sense.
When it's right, it's right.
And the sky opened up,
Yeah.
and I celebrated every anniversary, special days, everything. I saw her 2 days. I didn't know the time she was taking advantage of me. I saw her only 2 days a week. Because the husband she claimed she was leaving sent me a picture of the ring being broken off. He was still controlling her. I didn't know that. I moved us into a house because I wanted to show her I could be something.
Yeah.
Because I did eventually get my GED, but I basically live check to check right now. But I thought if I get this house, because she had 2 boys, I'm like, she'll see some value in me. But I also decided at that time that not only was I masculine, but I did not identify to the hair or the titties anymore. It just wasn't me.
Yeah.
And so I talked to her about it. I said, if I get this surgery, I said, will you stay with me? And she said yes. And I got the surgery, and she wasn't there. I actually ended up getting an infection here because I take care of myself. So I can't feel here anymore. But she eventually, I found out that she had been lying to me, that she was not working. She had no money. And I wasn't attracted to her. She stopped touching me here. That was really hard. Like, I could feel her pulling away, and I was just like, and at the same time, I've got these women, like, I'm a very monogamous person, but I've got these women like, oh, you're so cute, and da-da-da, and I'm trying to stick it with her, and I still remember she packed her stuff and left. I literally dropped to my knees and wailed. Yeah. I've never cried like that in my life since then.
How therapeutic that must have been.
Oh my gosh. I was so broken, guys. Like, and this woman happened to sneak in right around that time, and turned out she was broken as well. So that was like 6-7 months of hell. I was like, what am I doing?
Well, it is. It's like, this is why we have to do the work. And also I'm thinking about, the difference between you and your siblings, right? But it's like with all of this trauma and betrayal and pain, you chose to pour love into yourself and to sit with yourself and to reconnect with yourself and to become the love that you never got.
Yes.
And now you're able to care for little Kiki.
Yes.
Little Kiki cares for you.
Yes.
You met your beautiful future wife who is with us in the studio.
Yes.
And we adore her. And I don't understand how you, how you are resilient, how you always have a smile on your face. Your energy is so joyful and so optimistic. How? How did you learn
Although
to
I bet
trust
it's not
again?
always.
No.
I bet you still have those moments,
That's
right?
what I love about my partners.
Yeah.
With her, I feel so safe. Like, if I have a bad day, she's like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, I'm like, I don't feel like talking to people today. She's like, it's
Yeah.
okay. I still love you. Like, she'll let me be there with her.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
colors with me. We paint.
Yeah.
We do art. I love her. So,
How
I
did you
grew
get
up.
that test? I mean,
I
that
watched
trust.
Full House and Family Matters
Oh.
and Step by Step.
Yeah.
And
They raised you.
yes. And then, so I'm the only mushy one in my family. Like, I love hugging and loves and hearts and stuff. And this is, by the way, this is little Kiki right now. She's really excited. I love, hugs and love and mushiness, and I like to be squeezed, and I like soft things and stuffies. And then we moved here, so I got my own place finally. I found out about High School Musical. And I was here we go. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, love. That's what love looks like. So Troy and Gabriella are my life. And we had watched like Lion King in my house, and Michael Jackson was a big thing. But when we moved here, I found out about like Tangled and Brave and Little Mermaid, and I'm like, Disney is life. So,
what spoke to you about the stories?
Oh my gosh! So obviously, Tangled's my favorite.
It's a good movie.
They had hard lives, but it was like, but there's a happily ever after. There's a prince.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wanted a husband so bad. I wanted someone to come love me and sweep me off my feet and take me away and
In
be
that
like,
fairy tale way.
Yeah, because I was so lonely. I was so hurt. I had struggled so much financially for so many years. There was times I almost lost my place. So this is all I had. This is what I sucked my soul into.
Yes.
I was like, yes.
But you know, Kiki, however, the word survivor just kind of keeps coming up for me in this. Like you survived. Like when you talk about the resiliency and you talk about managing through this, there's always some light. And I swear sometimes when we're young and we start defending ourselves and we start taking care of ourselves, we start looking in the media, we start looking in other families, we start looking in other kids, we start looking all across the board to find someone that's actually doing it differently, and that shows us that it's possible.
Yeah.
So I think what you're describing is all of these Disney films, all of the other reference that you make, they show you that there was an opportunity, that it could happen. And when we see that it can happen, we have hope.
Yes.
So it feels like hope kind of kept you going as a survivor. Yes. And now you're working toward that light. But I can't imagine you don't have shitty days.
Oh my God.
Where some of this trauma comes back, some of the difficulty comes back. You push your partner away. I'm sure Jodi.
Oh my God.
Testing.
Fuck yeah. I mean, can we say fuck yeah on that? I'm like, how are you still here, baby? I don't know.
And when you're feeling vulnerable, of course we do that. And so we need a partner to say, I'm here.
Yes.
Take a deep breath and to do our own work still.
Yes.
So I love how raw that was, that fuck
too.
yeah. So,
yes.
Right.
So, y'all, I thought rom-coms was the deal. And I'm like, oh, dating's going to be amazing. No, it wasn't.
No.
So by the time
it's a jungle out there.
I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, where's my Disney fantasy? Like, I'm romantic. I'm chivalrous. I'm a lover. I'm a great
How
dad.
can this not be happening?
I was like, what's happening?
Yep.
And so when Jodi came along, unfortunately, it was a time where I was just like, I actually tried solo poly for a bit. Because I was like, these women kept hurting me. Yep. And so I was like, maybe I should just date like multiple people. Sure. And I tried dating 2 men at once. It was exhausting.
So solo poly, is that when you were dating a couple?
Yeah, so I would date, so I would keep my own place. They would have their own place, but they would come visit me.
Okay.
And I'd visit vice versa, but we're
Which
on
does
our
work
own.
for some people, I might say.
But I'm not me.
Yeah.
So
that's how we
I was dating 2 people, and one of them was Jodi, and I was like, oh my God, Jodi's special and wonderful, and she's a nerd like me, and she loved me, and when we talked about, because despite everything I went through at the church, I was still spiritual, but every woman I dated was an atheist until I met Jodi. When Jodi pulled me aside, we were walking on the Stone Arch Bridge, and she was like, I want to talk to you about my spiritual side. I was like, hallelujah. I was like, did you just say that?
So the clouds opened up.
Yeah, the clouds opened
up. Doug, I was like, let's leave right now. We're going to my house on the balcony, get some coffee.
I was like, this is happening.
I was like, what? And then she told me her story, and I was like, we're both empaths. We're both neurodivergent. We're both there's so much in common. And she helped me discover that I'm neurodivergent. I didn't know I was neurodivergent. I met Jodi. And the very things that irritate me about her, I do the same thing just in a different way.
That's literally how it works with humans, right? The things that irritate us, it's like we see this part of ourselves that we've rejected in each other, and we hate it. We reject it.
But what's great is now we're able to, we both know if we're feeling anxious. So I wanted to say that a few clicks ago, sometimes you're not going to have your cards or your dolls or your fidget spinners. Yep. So we know each other. I know when she's in pain. She knows when I'm in pain. We know when we're anxious. And so we'll grab each other in the shoulder. We'll say, hey, I'm right here. It's okay. I love you. You're safe.
That affirmation is priceless.
And sometimes I don't care where we are. I don't care if middle store. I say, I don't give a fuck about these people. Come here. And I'll hold her. And I'm like, it's okay. I got you. If she does the same for me. I've never had that.
No.
I'll know, like, we'll get up in the morning, I know she's hurting, I'll just rub her back. I've never been so connected to somebody. That's why I can never let her go. Our love life is incredible. I hope she doesn't mind I'm saying that, I'm sorry, but man.
We're going to ask her about that.
Yeah.
She's on another episode.
Love everything about this. And this whole episode, basically, like, the theme is becoming.
Yes.
For sure.
And the theme is like you can't wrap it up in a bow. It's a day by day, minute by minute, loving and accepting all of the fragments, all of the multifaceted diamond, bright shining lights, and that you have found the love of your life and you have found yourself.
Yes. And drag set me free.
Woo!
Okay? Because I was singing at church. Kiki loves to sing, okay?
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, well, since you're queer, you know, you can't work with the children's building, you can't sing. So I was really bitter about that.
I'm bitter about that.
I know. I was like, I love singing. Why are you taking that from me? And then I got connected with this troupe called Transcendence Cabaret. They're amazing. And their leader was like, oh my God, come perform with us.
Yay!
And so I sing live.
That's so great.
Yes. So the
plug everything.
Yeah, we need
Tell us,
some.
like, where can our people find you? What?
Well, so I sing live. My next show is until February because with my dissociation when that happened, I needed some time to mentally get myself back in line.
You bet.
But I am going to be. I'm actually completing in the Mr. and Mrs. Black Pride.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm going to be in the
Congrats.
Mr. category. At Lush on February 9th. I'm excited.
That's really great.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
Where?
It's at Lush.
Lush. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm even if I don't win, I'm just excited to get my swag out there. You know. But so being able to drag, being able to grow out my facial hair because I'm a hairy. Look.
I really wanted to hear you finish that sentence.
Oh, I'm hairy. Look, I was like, I actually looked at my birth records. I'm like, was I born like with two parts? Because something's happening.
If you grow the goatee, look at what we'll look like.
I know.
Oh my God!
Hey,
Twinning.
hey, when this comes out, I got a handle. I'm just saying, you know, I'm daddy. You know, no, don't let it fool you. Now, I'm swaggy as hell. But I've always wanted to be like a Bruno Mars usher. So when I do my drag, I really go out to say, I tell them, I'm like, I'm taken because you're my partners with me. But I'm gonna tell you, I'll be singing to them. They're like, you can have my number. What can I go home with you? I'm like, no, because at the end of the day. I tried so it probably wasn't for me. I'm monogamous. I want my soulmate. I want my partner, and that's what Jodi is. But don't get me wrong. My drag persona, when Blackberry come out, I have been told
that's
I make
another
panties
story.
moist.
We need to see that.
My favorite tag is I make panties moist. I'm like, yes.
Oh my God! Do we need merch?
Yes,
that is
yeah. I mean,
I think that's probably the name of this episode.
Yeah, man.
Oh my God, the name of this episode. So this is, I feel like, final thought.
Okay.
Is, do things happen for a reason? I don't know. I don't believe in that. But what I do believe is that you can make meaning.
Yeah.
And make it mean something. And you have had the roughest, rockiest, most cruel, I mean, the sides of humanity that you have seen and the meaning you have made of it to share your story with us, encourage and inspire, and we cry with you, we laugh with you. You're impossible not to love. Yeah. I hope you know that. I hope that sticks to the ribs in a different way now that you've done your work.
I have one last question.
No, no more questions.
I have two.
I'm just kidding.
So one of the things that really strikes me is for all of us who grow up not knowing who we are, we can't feel safe in our homes. We don't know how to label ourselves. We don't know how to identify. If you could say anything to little Kiki, what would you have said to her as a child?
Beautiful. I would have said that be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Oh, okay. That last part was really good. I've never heard that before.
I love how weird and quirky and
lovely.
Nerdy and sexy and fun I am.
Yeah.
You are all
because
of those
everyone
things.
else is taken.
Yeah.
God, I love that.
That's really beautiful. Thank you.
I wanted to fit
really
in so bad. Have you guys ever seen that SpongeBob episode? I'm normal. Like I wanted to be that.
I'm positive I have.
Yeah.
So that was definitely in my household.
This Kiki now, whose best friend is the mayor of Columbia Heights. This Kiki now.
Oh, look at you.
I'm singing at Century College for MLK Day. This Kiki, he, she, non-binary, Black and proud, happily in an interracial relationship. I love white women. I just want to make sure I put that out there. I don't care what anyone thinks of me.
Well, they love you. I can speak.
So I
don't care what anyone thinks
noise
of
from
me.
Jodi, who might have heard that comment.
Yeah, I love creamy, dreamy. She's the cream in my coffee, man.
Oh my God.
Just like, give me your hand for a minute. So like, you know when the hands come together?
Yeah.
You see how beautiful that is?
That is beautiful.
Yeah, so imagine that with a blush and yeah. So we'll stop there.
Really? We're going to stop? Okay.
Well, I want more.
I mean, I'm a look. I can paint a story. But there's something so beautiful about the rosiness in her cheeks, the way her hair lays just right, the way she smells, the way her eyes sparkle. I am enraptured.
That is
That's really
love.
beautiful.
Yes,
You literally described love.
I am.
Kiki, I must tell you, I think this interview was meaningful in so many different ways.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for such an honest and authentic and disclosing story about your life. I really feel like these issues are ones that we as a culture need to continuously have for so many different reasons. But at the end, we are all one human family. We are all the same.
Yes.
And how really lovely. We're not all the same, obviously, but we're all one human family, and we all function the same way and all need the same things. So thank you so much.
You are
for
such
everything
a
you've said.
gift.
Thank you so
and
much.
your story that you shared it with us, I know you will have touched so many lives today.
Thank you.
For sure.
And Rapunzel says,
Yes, what does Rapunzel have to say about
to
this?
go live your dream.
Go live your dream and get out
Yes.
of that fucking tower.
Yes.
And become a drag king.
Yes, and it's okay if you have some racing thoughts about it, like go back and forth. Just make sure you stay on that positive side. Live.
Oh,
Thank you, Kiki.
thank you, Kiki.
Bye.
Friends, wasn't that amazing and powerful? I mean, we laughed and we cried. Kiki really brought us through.
I definitely laughed. I did not cry.
I did. What do you
Did
use
you?
your cold, black, coal-shaped heart?
No, it's interesting. I think sometimes, while I do sometimes cry, I have no problem crying. I did not cry. I was so invested in learning and listening. Plus, I was right next to Kiki, which was like so intimate and lovely to be able to have that experience and see every ounce of their facial expression as they talked. But yeah, that was an intense, deep conversation that I think is so relevant to so many people. And really, I was struck by the fact that, while I think anybody who has such trauma and such a deep, complicated, multifaceted story has oftentimes a hard time talking it through, Kiki was just like flowing with information and readily available to disclose kind of their most intimate experience from a childhood experience on, and really did a nice job answering some very difficult questions that I think we posed.
Extraordinary. Yes, and
for sure.
we went deep. And but Doug and I have some exciting news.
We do.
We have a secret. And right now, it's a week before we're going to post this. And so I was given permission by Kiki's beautiful future wife, future spouse, Jodi. Jodi's going to propose tomorrow.
Which
New Year's Eve.
I realize we're like betting on this happening
Oh my God,
for
what
whatever
if
reason.
it will.
But
It
we're
will.
assuming it's going to happen. And it's so sweet of Jodi to share that with Talia. And that we know that information. So we want to just say at some point, and hopefully this is the case, but congratulations to the two of you post engagement and post this episode going on our podcast schedule.
And
so
it
we're very
really
excited
is.
for both of you, and we can't wait to come to the wedding.
Yes. Rapunzel
yeah.
themed. It really is a fairy tale. I mean, it's just so
What are we gonna
incredibly
wear?
beautiful. Purple. Oh, duh.
Okay, yeah.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Oh, wait, there's more.
What?
We know that you loved today's episode. Hi.
I don't assume anything, but we hope you do.
If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen or watch. And for extra bonus points, you could rate and review, or send me a screenshot to my social media account, which we will go into in 2.5 seconds, and I will repost
1002,
and tag you,
1003,
and you will be my new
1004,
best friend.
1005, 1006, 1007. You said 2.5 seconds.
Wow.
I think it's past that. But please.
No, it's your turn.
Is it? So, one of the things I'm struck by is everybody has a question they've been dying to answer, either anonymously or directly. Mm-hmm. And they have questions for therapists that, if the chance came, they would just love for it to be discussed.
We're here.
We are here. And if you go to we'renotfine.com, use no apostrophe when you put that in your computer, we'renotfine.com, there is a place for you to submit any questions, any comments, any stories that you want us to share with people that you think would be relevant given the theme of our show on relationships and mental health, which everything is about relationships. We have found out, of course, in the course of our work history. But the reality is you can go on there and submit, again, anonymously. You can put in a false name. You can put Mickey Mouse. You can put whatever you want to put in there. The reality is we will answer it, and we appreciate any submissions you have. We'renotfine.com.
And find us on social media. Instagram, Dr. Talia Jackson, douglasljensen with an E-N, and We're Not Fine.
Yep.
And we love y'all.
And we're not fine, but...
Oh, we're not fine, but...
No, that was my line. We're not fine, but...
At least you don't look like a chihuahua. Okay, should we try again?
Or maybe you do, and that's not a bad thing.